I see this team, you guys don't know how good you can be. There's so much talent here, so much ability. You guys have it. I see something special here. So, with no further ado, I appreciate you captains coming out here for us, and I wanted to present to you and Coach Taylor the HBCU Plus Stats Perform FCS National Team of the Week Award. Show it to them, guys. Let's hear it. Go Tigers! Woo!
JSU students, we know how much you love cheering us on game days.
But there's something bigger than winning the big game. Your vote.
Voting is your chance to make a difference just like we do on the field.
So this November, let's make a play for change.
Get registered, stay informed, and show up on game day, November 5th. Let's make a big time play together.
Go vote.
Be our vote.
BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything football. BetOnline has every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads to bet on during the games. Think you know your stuff? Get in on our $200,000 mega contest and pick 5 games against the spread every week for your chance at weekly prizes and a share of $200K. When the game's over, head over to our online casino for blackjack, poker, or one of our over 150 slots games. Head to the website today to get in on the action. Bet online. The game starts here.
What's up, Tiger fans? Welcome to another episode of Tiger Talk TV. I am the Corey C. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast and turn on that notification bell so you do not miss a single upcoming episode. You can find us on the Apple Podcast app, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. So be sure to follow the show and tell every Tiger that you know. And remember, when you support Tiger Talk TV, it all helps the cause, which is the I love Jackson State University. All right, big game this Saturday on the road at Grambling, and joining us to talk about those Tigers, the other Tigers from Grambling, the play-by-play voice of the G-Men, Onaje Morris, and the color commentator Nathan McCarter. Welcome to Tiger Talk TV.
Hello, how you doing?
Thank you for having us.
Oh, man, it's a pleasure, man. I'm glad you guys could join. Happy to have you. Looking forward to a big game. Just kind of give us an update of what's going on down in Grambling. What's it been like down in Grambling this week leading up to this game, getting prepared?
Well, this is Jackson State, of course. Every year this is the biggest game, pretty much. Especially it's a home game. Last time I remember seeing you guys, we were out at Jackson State. Was a hot game as well. I know a lot of people remember, if you're fans there, the lot of stuff going on during the game as well. But I think the main thing with Grambling is that no opponent, especially in the SWAC, is taken lightly. And I think there's respect on both ends. From Jackson State and Grambling State University. We have a new coach, and he definitely understands the dynamic walking into this game. So I think the atmosphere, we know that it's going to be, Jackson State always brings down a huge crowd. It's a home game. We know we'll bring a huge crowd as well. The bands, everything about this game is going to be worth the hype.
Yes, sir. And then to come off him, I've already been seeing the RVs come through already. For the most part, AD Scott told her this game is supposed to be sold out. Mm-hmm. So I'm expecting to see a lot from the bands, from the players. We already know Mississippi is right there, so it's a lot of family and friends traveling in and out. It's going to be a big one.
And Nathan, with you being on campus, what's the buzz like on campus as far as the student body and even the players?
Okay, yeah, that's a good question. As far as like SGA, FSUB, the different orgs that are on campus, they're kind of describing it more so as like a homecoming game almost.
Wow.
If Jackson State were to come for a homecoming, it would probably be times 10 of what we're expecting, what everybody's saying, but it feels like a homecoming atmosphere.
So would you say the team is not looking at it as, would you say it's a game that they kind of circled on their calendar or just another game?
I think for a fact this is a game that has to be circled on the calendar. Both teams coming to the game 2-1, of course. The bands, first SWAC game. It's been a minute since Jackson State came to Grambling, so
it's been a minute. Well,
it's a lot of talking. It's a big game just in every single category that brings Grambling and Jackson State to Grambling.
Yeah, first time going down to Grambling since the spring back in 2021.
Right.
And as you said, both teams are coming in 2-1 along an identical path: an opening season loss to an FBS G5 program, a week 2 win against the D2 opponent, followed by a win over their first FCS opponent of the season in week 3. OJ, give us a quick overview of the G-Men early on in the season and what you've learned so far about this team.
Well, learned that this defense for Grambling State University is nothing to play with. That's the first thing that really jumps off the page with everything. Is a lot of people, of course, with Miles Crawley being the preseason for All SWAC and not having any defensive players or not even having many other players at all other than Miles Crawley. A lot of people are expecting this to be an offensive heavy team. And we have proven everything but that. We are a defensive heavy team. Last game should prove to you alone. 5 turnovers, 1 fumble recovery. First touchdown of the game was a fumble recovery, and 4 others was interceptions. So our defense has been outstanding from the defensive line. Bryce Cage is one of the guys from the defensive line that we like to mention a lot. Linebacker core is amazing. Andrew Jones just the SWAC Defensive Player of the Week last week. And our DBs are amazing. We have a freshman who's running the table for our DBs. He's had a tackle for loss, a sack, fumble recovery, an interception. He's done it all pretty much this season. He's a true freshman as well from LA.
His name
is Blake Davis.
Okay.
Blake Davis, and he is outstanding player. But overall, what we've learned so far, this team is really well defensively, and that's how they spark off. But offensively, they have a lot of weapons. We have a whole new plethora of wide receivers. I mean, all the way down from Nick Howard, Jacoby Bellazar, Javion Robinson, who was here last year as well. And then now we have 2 running backs, which we had as well last year, but it's a different set of running backs. Last year we had Floyd Chalk and Chance Williams. This year we have a brand new duo, but same amount of firepower with Trey Bradford and Bull Hargrove. Bull Hargrove coming over from Memphis, and Trey Bradford coming over from LSU. Both 4-star recruits. So with that being said, our defense has been our strong point, but our offense, I believe that just hasn't found their footing just yet. Haven't found their last week. They struggled a little bit, but a lot of sparks from that offense that we saw, a lot of things that we could pull from last week and we'll love to put into this week. But offense is one of the things that's still working on clicking, but defensively they have been able to hold the load.
Let's hear about this wild game last week. You touched on it, Texas A&M Commerce, an overtime game with 9 total turnovers that ended with an interception. You talked about how great this defense is. Nathan, last week, was it because of great defense or was it a little bit of sloppy offense as well? What's going on there? What was going on there?
It was definitely, like you said, the offense is still trying to find their footing, but literally from the start of the first quarter, it was a defensive play. The first score on the board was a defensive touchdown, which put us up 6-0. And ever since then was a fight. It ended up being tied at half, 21-21. And from there, it was only a touchdown scored in the third quarter, a touchdown scored in the fourth quarter, and then we were able to come up and score a touchdown in OT period. But even before then, the offense, they showed us late in that game with the defense putting their life on the field, play after play after play, and then the offense would have come able to maybe just pick up the momentum that the defense had been laying all game. Like the defense has been doing in and out for the most part. Like every single player on the Grambling defense is versatile in their own way. They're not one-dimensional whatsoever. It's an exciting defense. They're grueling at the line. They don't take a lot of mess at the line for the most part. Even with Commerce rushing for a team high 250 plus yards, that still didn't define them as a defense at all because the defense was the last team that was out when it came to overtime.
And also to piggyback off that, I think a lot about that last game was coaching as well. Coaching was a huge part. They coming into that game, Texas A&M Commerce previously the week before against UC Davis threw for 450 plus yards and saw that Grambling State University kind of struggled a little bit in the running game and completely changed their offensive scheme once they came into the game. They ran the ball more often than not. We only saw about 4 or 5 pass attempts, probably a little bit more than that in that first half alone. And they had 200 plus yards rushing in the first half alone. So that in the second half, they didn't, Grambling State University defense didn't allow more than 60 yards rushing. So they made a great adjustment. I feel like the players stepped up as well, but a lot of things in that game was coaching. coaching, putting guys in right position. Even coach pulled Miles Crawley for a couple drives to put our freshman Dale J. Bailey in, and that was just kind of like a mental check for him. And that was all coaching. I mean, nobody in the stands kind of would have thought that, but the coach, that was a very risky move.
Right.
They did it, and it worked out for him. And the same thing with Bull Hargrove. Bull Hargrove, he had fumbled in the end zone at the beginning of the fourth quarter. He didn't play until overtime and made a big catch for us in overtime to set Trey Bradford up for the rushing touchdown. So a lot of it was players, of course, but the coaching between defensive coordinator Rollins here and then Coach Mickey Joseph and then our offensive coordinator Eric Dooley, they all put their brains together and, I mean, really found a way out to win this game.
Right. Grambling forced 6 turnovers, but still only won by a touchdown in overtime. Typically, if you're +3 in the turnover department, you expect to win more comfortably. OJ, how concerning would you say that is?
I wouldn't say as concerning because a lot of times the offense wasn't out there for long, and the defense a lot of times were out there more often than not. They had to substitute a lot of guys because the stamina start to get a little low, but the defense was still amazing. I don't think it is so much alarming as far as what Grambling has done because the defense was able to hold up. I think that it's just some things that needs to be tuned up because the offense it has everything. The offense has a pretty solid O-line. It has a good running duo. They have a obviously one of the best quarterbacks in the SWAC, and then he has a plethora of receivers and also 2 tight ends to throw to. So this offense isn't any short of anything, but at the same time, like we said, I think it's more of a just them getting their footing. I'm not concerned. I'm more actually excited to see once they do get their footing, what this team will look like because what we've seen is just sparks and flashes in the pan. You all know it, as well. When it comes to SWAC play, every player in the SWAC, every coach kind of turns it up a little bit. So we'll see if Grambling State what next level they have. So I'm not alarmed. I'm more excited to see what they have in store.
Absolutely. And OJ mentioned new head coach Mickey Joseph. Nate, to talk about him a little bit. He comes to Grambling from Nebraska most recently. His coaching career dates back almost 30 years. So describe his personality and the mentality that he brings to the program.
He's a winner. He's I was these last 2 weeks, I've been able to have sit down interviews with him. I do it every Monday, 2 hours after his press conference. And not only he comes timely and stuff, but he addresses everybody. I have students usually in the room with us to, watching the interview so they could be prepared to do the interviews next. And he addresses them. I feel like beyond football, because a lot of people look at coaches. I look beyond football because that's really important as a football coach. He's somebody you instantly feel comfortable around. He's also somebody instantly you could feel that will motivate his players. He's honest with us as well. When we have our interviews, there isn't any sugarcoating of it. He tells you straight up, all right, I pulled Miles Crawley because he wasn't doing good. As simple as that. And he holds his players to accountability that all coaches should. And I feel like from what we've had before, nothing on Fobbs or Jackson. I just feel like he brings a different dynamic. You could feel that he's been in a coaching room with a wide receiver room with Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson. You could feel that sense of professionalism and the urgency that he's bringing it as well. First year, he isn't waiting for his first year to be a trial run. He is actually doing everything he wants to set down to be a coach this year. He's getting the relationships. I think that overall, Grambling State University made a great choice because he's a Louisiana guy as well. And his relationships with everybody here is not new relationships. These are guys that he's known for a long time. I'm probably only the only person that talks to him on a weekly basis that he's just met out over here. And so in a sense, he has a great relationship with everybody. The players love him. The players always have something good to say about him. And also I feel like there's more of a family base instead of him just being a general and a leader. He's the lead of the family. So it's more comfortability. I don't feel like any of the players feel like they're in a situation where they have a very stern coach. He's a guy who put his foot down. And in the press conferences, you could tell as well the way he corrects people and all this other stuff. But in a sense, he still has a sense of humanity and comfort to him. So overall, he's a coach that if I was playing, I would love to be coached by.
All right. And then Nathan, your observations of Coach Joseph as well.
Like OJ was saying, Coach Mickey Joseph. He's straight cut, simple to the point. Like as soon as if he didn't like something, he's gonna be ready for adjustment. That's probably why he's not the person that's always gonna be always in the cut, flashy, doing all this and that. He's more so behind the scenes. He's getting everything play by play to be able to make sure that ultimately his players come up with the win. And after this past week, I see exactly all the different pieces from coaches and players to staff and trainers why everything is the way it is. So he's definitely somebody of stature, somebody you really want to be able to put 2 feet behind him. Hey, I'm gonna go play for him. Like he's actually that coach. I remember when he first got here, it was a press conference. Him being from Louisiana, the first thing he wanted to do was go out and recruit locally. He went out to Carroll, out in Monroe. He went a couple places in Shreveport in the local area. So he I like exactly what he has with the foundation, with the base he's trying to create, with bringing all these Louisiana players in and bringing other players that he's had a rapport with for back in the day. Like I'm starting to see it coming to fruition, and everything he's saying is coming there.
Yeah, definitely a wealth of talent in Louisiana. It always ranks up there per capita, with some of the best in the nation in terms of
Yes,
college
sir.
football and guys going on to the NFL. So we definitely we watched from afar in terms of what he was able to do from a recruiting standpoint. But let's get into this roster and talk about this team that he's put together. We undoubtedly have to start with Miles Crowley, obviously the SWAC preseason player of the year. He threw for over 2,300 yards with 16 touchdowns last season and was the first Grambling quarterback to reach 2,300 yards since Devontae Kincaid back in 2017. So I want to hear from both of you, but we'll start with you, Nate. Has he been as good as advertised so far this year?
Well, we're being honest. So far, there have been flashes. The flashes, there have been ups and been downs. In other words, hills and valleys. So he's still trying to find out. He's still trying to find out certain things. But I think he's been battle tested from UL, not throwing a pick really, to Tuskegee. Obviously, he had a monster first half, and he was able to do that again. I have a monster first half. A little bit more so on the defense. This past week with him kind of struggling on offense, I was able to see kind of a different gear from Miles Crowley that I didn't see all season, and that's going to be key and big for like especially SWAC games down the road when you have those tight battles. He showed me that he can do things that is outside of just passing. He can run like a pocket. He can throw out the pocket, play action, no matter if it's shotgun, pistol, play action pass, whatever it is. He's pretty much trying to learn, be a sponge to it. But as far as has he been good as advertised, right now he's still in his proving grounds, trying to be able to show to everybody why he was picked as the FCS Player of the Year or preseason. Yes, sir.
And kind of piggyback off that, I've been covering SWAC since 2018. So I've seen him when he was with Alabama State, and knowing when he was transferring over to Grambling State University, I knew that he would obviously be one of the best quarterbacks that we've had since hand grenade Kincaid. I gotta say the nickname if we're gonna throw it out there. But overall, he's ever since he's gotten here, which was last year, shown tremendous upside. Last year it was a couple games that he struggled, but he had a lot of games that he was outstanding in. I mean, was clicking. It was one game he only had 5 incompletions, and 3 of those was drops. So well, moving over to this year, preseason all SWAC, which is very well deserved. But have we seen everything that has been advertised? Honestly, we are close to it. We saw flashes, like Nate said. First game, didn't throw any picks, didn't have an outstanding game. Next game, he did have an outstanding game, but was pulled in the second half, so we didn't see full potential of what he could have really brought out to the table. And last game, I think he struggled. But the defensive, I think that defenses are starting to key on him. And that's what it looked like a lot last week. They started to key a lot on Miles Crowley. A lot of the times when we have players, they'll key on Chance Williams and Floyd Chalk on running game. But this year, they're directly coming after Miles Crowley. So this year, obviously, advertised to be our best player, but also with this year is a change that he will have a bigger target on his back. And I think that's what has been shown so far. I don't think that what he has gotten the preseason award is in vain. I think that he'll prove all of that. But right now, he's adjusting with being the main target now. He's adjusted with defenses bringing up Miles Crowley before anybody else when it comes to defensive game plan. So I think that is definitely going to be transition. That's why I feel like we've seen him struggle a little bit more throughout the season because you could definitely see that they're not keying on our running game anymore. They're keying on Miles Crowley and want us to depend on our running game. So I think that there's a lot that he is seeing, and there's a lot of things that different for him, but I think he'll be well adjusted as SWAC comes around, which is this week.
Absolutely, absolutely. Nathan, talk about this backfield. I know OJ mentioned it earlier a little bit, talked about losing two backs, Chance Williams and Floyd Chalk, combined for over 1,600 yards rushing last season. They both transferred. He also mentioned bringing in the two FBS backs, one from LSU and one from Memphis. But with the offense struggling a little bit, how has the running back room been?
The running back room at Grambling State is still adjusting. It's definitely flashes. We've been seeing a lot of flashes to be able to see. Obviously, with just 3 games, we still have plenty of more games to come through. But Trey Bradford, coming from LSU, he's more so of a shifty back. He can put his head down. He's leading. He's second right now. Him and Hargrove are going back and forth. Bull Hargrove and Travion Hargrove. He's from Memphis. He's actually a local kid. He went to Ruston High before going to Memphis and then eventually coming back here. But Hargrove is somebody, it takes, every time I'm doing commentating, it takes about 2 people to get him down, 2 to 3 people to get Bull Hargrove down. Trey Bradford, he's always missing tackles from left and right. He actually was Bull Grove and Trey Bradford were a big reason why we won late in that OT game last week from Hargrove. We had a penalty, actually. I want to say it was a 3rd down conversion. We had to get Bull Hargrove. He caught a pass on the sideline over his shoulder, and he was able to help Trey Bradford literally punch right in. So, they work together in both ways. When one's not on the field, somebody else is catching the slack.
And then also talk about that wide receiver room. I know OJ mentioned a couple names as well, but Nathan, from your perspective, who are some of the go-to guys for Crawley after last season, obviously losing the leading receiver, Antonio Jones, who transferred to Temple? And I think, OJ, you mentioned Javon Robinson as well, the reigning SWAC freshman of the year. He was a preseason 2nd-team selection. So there's been some big expectations for him, I would imagine.
Yes. Javion Robinson, he's been above the expectations that everybody has set upon him. Of course, being freshman of the year last year. Me personally, I like to call him Mr. All-Purpose, from kick return, punt return to receiving the ball, sometimes even in the jet sweep action. Kobe Belazar, he's been somebody that's they kind of play and favor each other. If one person's not on the field, he's out there catching the slack for speed. And then Nick Howard's actually been big. He's somebody with sure hands. He's somebody that can get through the tackles after the run after catch. After he catches it, he's running. Regardless of the height in our receiver group, everybody plays physically at a punt attack. As soon as the ball's in the air, they're looking to go grab it. They're trying to make Miles' job easier for the most part. This is a group that's been a minute since Devontae Lindsay, Verlin Hunter, and Chad Williams. They can't kind of give me a little bit of that group. Not as good just yet because I haven't seen the full potential, but they're showing promise so far.
And I like to piggyback off of that a little bit too. Our tight ends as well has done. Cordavius Knighton, coming from McNeese State. My cousin played with him over at McNeese State. Mason Kinsey, he was their defensive lineman. And he's been shown tremendous upside. I remember my cousin telling me a little bit about him, and he was like, "Oh, well, he thought he was more of a good blocker than anything." And he showed us that he's a vertical threat more than anything. So I think beyond the wide receivers, our pass catchers in general, tight ends and all, are amazing. We have a great wide receiver room and tight end room.
Let's talk a little bit more about the offense, OJ. Coach Joseph brought in a big name at OC and quarterbacks coach, Eric Dooley, right? The former Southern and Prairie View head coach. He's a guy who hangs his hat on the offensive side of the ball. You talked about the struggles, though. So give me some strengths of the offense and then talk a little bit more about the struggles and why you think it's taking this offense a little bit longer than they would probably have hoped to get going.
Well, of course, Eric Dooley was coming down after beating us so many. I'm sorry, beating us so many times with Prairie View. I mean, 4 years in a row we couldn't beat him, and it seemed like he had our number every time during the State Fair Classic. But I feel like with him coming in, there's so much more creativity to this offense. I mean, the motions that they use. This is one that they use with Javion Robinson, where he motions over from far side and he goes around the quarterback and kind of sets as a running back at a sense, or go back to a slot receiver. The motions, the things that he give us. He's also first time in a long time that I've seen the T offense be ran. or 3 running backs in the backfield. It's almost like Vince Lombardi. But his creativity with this offense has been massive. I mean, we've seen players be utilized in all kind of different ways. Even receivers that we've named, there's some receivers that's been used that we haven't even talked about, like J.R. Waters, Nashawn Dickerson. They are also receivers that get utilized in this offense. I think that he's almost playing musical chairs. He has so many different guys that he could put in, and there's so many different guys he could put out, and they'll give the same result. Like Jacoby Bellazar and Javion Robinson, they can almost do the same thing. Just two different, a little bit of different. One is a little bit bigger than the other, but can do the same thing. But I feel like the struggles came from, like we said, everything is new. Eric Dooley is a great offensive coordinator, yes, and also Mickey Joseph is a great offensive mind as well. But these are new guys who, for the first time, playing with each other. You know, Miles Crawley has a new set of running backs. Miles Crawley also have a few guys that's new on that offensive line. His receivers that he's throwing to, the only familiar one is J.R. Waters and Javion Robinson. And Javion Robinson is the only one that he utilizes a lot from last year. A lot of the new guys are getting touches, like Nick Howard, Jacoby Bellazar. So when I see these offensive struggles, I see youth in it. I see a lot of guys that's fresh to each other, young to each other, not new players. They know how to play individually. Bull Hargrove knows how to run the ball. Miles Crawley knows how to air it out. Nick Howard knows how to catch a ball. But at the same time, you have to be able to work together and know how to do it as a cohesive unit. So I think that's the only thing that has prevented this offense from being even better. Of course, you practice, you have but game situations is a little bit different. And I feel like with this and everything that Miles Crawley has going, he has a great offensive coordinator and a head coach. It's great for a quarterback when your head coach is an offensive mind and your offensive coordinator was a great head coach for other teams and a great offensive mind himself. You can see that Mickey Joseph and Dooley is putting their brains together. I just think that getting this offense to click is more than just being a brainiac as far as the offense. You have to get these guys clicking. You have to get these guys together. And I think that ever so closer that we're getting more into the SWAC, which is this upcoming week, we have figured it out. Yes, we struggled a lot last week, but this team was better than we expected. Coach will admit that that front line, the front defensive line was a lot better than Coach expected. And Texas A&M Commerce came a lot harder than we thought. They had a way better offensive scheme. We thought they were going to pass the ball. They ran it with 4 different running backs. So, and defensively, they threw a lot of different looks at Miles Crawley. That's exactly why they threw a couple interceptions. One play, they were running man, and then all the guys dropped into a zone immediately after showing a little bit of man. So confusing Miles Crawley was their objective, and they did so. But I also think that is for later on games, that is exactly what we want in a non-conference game. We want confusion. We want things we could learn from. We want things that we haven't seen before. So when SWAC play does come, we will be prepared. So this offense has struggled, but I think that it is growing pains. I think this is something that we see from any new offense, from any team that gets a new offensive coordinator and a new coach, a whole new coaching staff except one guy. So what we're seeing here is growing pains, and I don't expect anything less as far as them learning. I'd rather them learn now and be ready for the SWAC, which I expect them to be.
Wow, good stuff. Good stuff. And you mentioned the offensive line. Grambling has started several freshmen on the offensive line, which is pretty rare in college football, although they did bring back preseason first-team pick Taj Martin. But the offense was held to just over 100 yards rushing last week and only 3.4 yards per carry. So how would you guys assess the offensive line play so far this season?
The offensive line here at Grambling, the first game against UL, we actually, to be honest, the first 2 weeks, we didn't give up a sack whatsoever. Week 2 against Tuskegee, we got a little bit more pressure. That's why Miles Crawley he had to sit out the second half. We got sacked for the first time in week 3 against Commerce. Commerce, they had a defensive line that they kind of switched up a little bit in their defensive line coverages. And like OJ said, they confuse Miles for the most part. You don't really see him get confused. He's that type of quarterback that stays poised. But if he can't figure out anything's going on, you have to kind of like get back and just I think Coach, like we were saying, Coach kind of gave him a mental check. So after that, he was able to get back out there. But for the most part, I think the struggles that are going on right now with offensive line would have to be the penalties from time to time. the penalties from time to time kind of kill us when we do make up a lot of yardage and we go down the field from the defense making a big play or us just getting good field position. The penalties have been going crazy the last 2 weeks, but I'm pretty sure that's what Coach Joseph is there for, and Coach Dooley is to make sure we got to get our counts right so we can lessen down the penalties.
Yeah, penalties is a huge setback for our offensive line. I think truly one of the few. I think the last game for our offensive line does not define us. If you watch the other games, they are doing quite a great job. It's the reason why Miles Crowley wasn't sacked those first 2 games. He was pressured in the second one, but they gave Miles Crowley a plenty of time to be in the pocket. And also what we saw from Miles Crowley that he could have utilized in those first 2 games, that he ran the ball a little bit more. He was able to tuck and run, and our offensive line holds well. I think our offensive line there's only so long you can hold a guy. And but the negative side to everything is that we have a lot of false start holding calls, and that shows to having freshmen on the line. Having some freshmen and a couple veterans that's a part of the offensive line, but mostly it's freshmen out there on the field. You're going to see some false starts. You're going to definitely see some holding calls, and that's what we've been seeing from the very first game of the season. That our offensive line has not had a subpart of a performance. Even last week, they gave up 2 sacks, but if you watch, I think that's why it's important to watch games instead of just stats and speculate after the game. The defensive line threw everything but a wrench into their game plan, literally. So I feel like that was also game planning as well for the offensive line. A lot of things they just weren't prepared for and will be coming up for. They will be, but this offensive line knows how to get a great push. I feel like they're even better when it comes to run blocking. A lot of these guys know how to move upfield, and our 2 running backs that we utilize, I know they're very happy for it, but overall, our offensive line has struggled a little bit last game, especially with the flags, and that's the main reason why I say they struggle. But I feel like we have, like I said, in this offense, we have everything we need. Defense, we obviously already have everything we need. Just got to get these guys clicking. When you have freshmen, new guys as well, new environment. College football is a different ball game from high school. So a lot of these guys is just I think the main point of that you could take away from this is these guys have growing pains. And these are new guys. We have a new team. We have a whole new program right now in a sense. So we have to expect these guys to learn and figure it out. And that's one of the things. You're going to have some flags. Just hopefully they can clean it up in the future.
And then moving over to the defense side of the ball, you continue to talk about how strong of a unit that is, the strength of the team. Coach Joseph brought in another well-known name to lead that unit. Of course, Jason Rollins, the former Southern interim head coach. So I want to hear from both of you guys on this. Talk about the type of defense that he's implemented and why they've been able to be so successful.
I'll go ahead. I think it has really started in the passing defense. Oh, my goodness. I've been here for quite some time. This is probably the best set of DBs I've seen in a long time here. No disrespect to previous. I just feel like each one, from safety to corner, even the guys that they funnel in, has played outstanding. Of course, Ron Peace, previous, I told you, 450 plus yards. But when Ron Peace in that last game we played against Texas A&M Commerce tried to air it out, it was a lot of times got pushed back. 4 interceptions, it doesn't just come up. Even if the quarterback was having a bad game, you have to be in good position. You have to also play good defense, and that's exactly what they've done. I'll trickle down to the linebackers. Andrew Jones just got the SWAC Defensive Player of the Week, but Brenton Barley, he's a linebacker, part of his team that is honestly, to me, one of the quietest defensive players that we have. That's a big threat. Him and Bryce Cage. You don't hear too much about them. They don't have too many interviews. There's not too many people raving about them, but boy, they'll show up every game. Brenton Barley had 2 interceptions in 2 games in a row. He had an interception in the Tuskegee game, and he had the first interception for us in the last game. So Brenton Barley has been a part of his linebacker core, and Andrew Jones being a part of it as well. Those 2 guys have absolutely dominated. Andrew Jones has had 10 plus total tackles each game this season. And Brendan Barley has came up somehow. Of course, he's had 5 tackles plus each game, but also being over in the turnover battles and stuff. He was in a lot of tackles that were forced fumbles or they got picked up and stuff that didn't get turned over. It causes turnover, but he was there. Brendan Barley has been a great linebacker for us as well. The defensive line, I talked about Bryce Cage, but that whole entire defensive line, I'm blanking here. Nate is Reed. His last name is Reed. Our defensive, our D tackle, 95.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. We still haven't got a first name on that.
Yeah, we haven't got a net first name, but I mean, he doesn't get a lot of shine because he doesn't get a lot of tackles, but he's plugging holes. I mean, he's doing the dirty work for this defense. He's doing the things that doesn't show up on the stat sheet. He's moving guys around. He's making plays for his linebackers. I'm pretty sure Andrew Jones will tell you that he could credit a lot of his tackles due to Reed because how much space he's taking up. This defense overall, from the front four to the linebacking core to the DBs, I mean, outstanding. Then you go talk about Coach Rollins. Rollins has always been a guy on the defense. We've known that even when he was with Southern, the troubles that he'll give us at the Bayou Classic, and that is the biggest stage in the world. So you will know that he does a great job executing as far as his defensive game plans. I think that he doesn't use much trickeration. He's straightforward. He's going to play defense. He's not going to send guys. He's not going to fake blitz or do schemes or crossover. No, he sends his guys and send where he wants them to be, and plain and simple. And his best response is stop it. That's as simple as that. He doesn't try to throw any tricks out there. He's a really straightforward guy. The way he plays the game of football, plays it really, I would say, traditional. He has a very traditional defense, but it works in this modern era.
Yes, sir. The defense here at Grambling they seem to surprise me every week, honestly. Right now, currently in FCS, we're number 1 in the nation for takeaways, for turnovers created. This was a defense that actually didn't get any SWAC all preseason awards whatsoever, all the way down. So for this past week, for Andrew Jones to get week 3 defensive player of the week, that's big for our defense, and just to show us that every week, every game, every inch, every yard, every play, they're looking to prove something. This is a prove-it defense, and since they didn't really get any recognition, they're going to make everybody know that we're going to get the recognition that we deserve.
T. Scott, our athletic director, told me the reason why none of them got a preseason a SWAC award because they couldn't give it to the whole defense. So that's the main reason, because if you look at this defense, of course, it's a couple guys that stand out, but as a whole unit, that's the reason why they're great. It's not any individual guy that's just doing everything for them. Of course, there you have Andrew Jones making the tackles and Blake Davis doing great coverage, but overall as a team, they are doing it as a whole. You can't give the SWAC all preseason award to the whole entire defense. You have to just choose a couple guys, and that's exactly what they did.
Now, they did give up 267 yards on the ground last week at 5 yards per carry. So how concerning do you think that is moving forward? You talked about how Texas A&M Commerce kind of they tricked you a little bit with the game plan that you weren't expecting, but how concerned do you think that'll be?
Overall, I don't think it's too concerning. I think that's something that they're very much working on, but has it been a weak point for our defense this season? It has been the rushing game. Passing lanes we've been excellent. Takeaways, most of our takeaways has came from the passing lanes. Even our fumble last week, it was off of a caught pass. So the passing lanes in general are just incredible. Our DBs, our passing defense is great, but our running defense has struggled a little bit. Last year, they struggled a little bit as well at the rush defense. So it is something that's concerning a little bit, especially if you look back to last year. But the difference between last year and this year is a whole different team, pretty much. So I believe I would like to credit it to being, of course, growing pains at the beginning of the year. But at the same time, if you don't clean that rushing game up or rushing defense up, teams like Jackson State and trickling down the line in the SWAC will punish that. They will definitely go after that. I know you guys have 2 different quarterbacks that you utilize. One quarterback it's an outstanding runner. They had 100 yards in the second game against Lane University rushing. So overall, you guys have a great rushing attack, but our defense hasn't been able to really, especially last game, they didn't really have too much in that first half to really counteract it. But what makes me feel good about it is that second half that they were able to put on. As me and Nate were calling the game, we were noticing a lot less runs were going for 5 to 10 yards down the field, because we were realizing in the first half, almost every rushing play went for no less than 5 yards. They were moving forward. Actually, BK Jackson, one of their running backs for the team, he had 149 yards. He didn't have any negative yardage, none. He went forward the entire game. So we noticed that throughout the first half, and in the second half, it was a huge shift. We didn't see as much of them running the ball. We saw a lot more 3 and outs. Even when they tried to pass it, it was just nothing was working for them. So that second half, when I extract that, and then of course overtime, the very first play, interception in overtime. So this defense they showed that, that the running game is a little bit of a weakness, but they also showed in that one game that they can make adjustments to that, and they did. They very much did. Stopping 4 guys running the ball, fresh legs almost all the time in that game, you got to give them a lot of credit. These are the defense didn't swap out guys. Bryce Cage, Andrew Jones, all these guys stayed in the entire game. Blake Davis, all these guys that we mentioned defensively, they stayed in the entire game. So that shows me that they have a lot of grit. And that shows me as well that if you can make an adjustment at halftime, you can make an adjustment over a week. So I think that this team has the rushing game. It doesn't concern me at all. During the game, did it concern me? Absolutely. I mean, I was sweating bullets. But at the same time, they got it together. This over the week, I know that is a point of emphasis, because I'm already knowing Jackson State is drawing up to run the ball, especially after what they've seen from us in the last 3 games. They're definitely going to attack something that we haven't proved to be that strong in. But that second half showed a lot to me. I think that Coach Joseph has mentioned it before. This team has been caught a lot only playing 30 minutes instead of the full 60. So a lot of these games, especially in the Tuskegee one, we played that first half tremendously. We played all 24 minutes of that first half amazing, but that second half didn't show up. So I feel like it was a complete opposite for the last game, Texas A&M Commerce. We defensively rushing game, we didn't show up that first half, but we completely turned around in the second half. So not concerned at all, just hoping that they make the right adjustments.
Right, and right off OJ's point, I think this defense, even with the 3 games we had, they're just bits of flashes. I like to say that this defense is battle tested. When it comes to this first game for a swag play, I think they're going to come into the game battle tested. The first week, there wasn't a lot of running on this team at all. For we were getting hit over top against Louisiana Lafayette. Then Tuskegee, week 2, the rushing attack for Tuskegee, it took them a little second. It definitely, they got to doing a lot more play action passes, outside runs, things that they couldn't just get right into the trenches with. And then so week 3 against Texas A&M Commerce, to see them go for 267 yards, it was kind of a surprise in a sense, but the coach's ability to adjust and improvise, they're showing the things from weeks 1 and 2. We didn't worry about having to get beat over the top against Texas A&M Commerce, because we're looking to see what they're doing with the run game. And then towards the second half, for them to be able to adjust and improvise after the fact, they're showing me that they're not just staying stagnant. They're not just staying in one game plan. They're different and multiple coverages that can be out there, and they're just looking to get a stop. But I wouldn't put the 267 rushing yards on the rushing defense on this team, on this defense, for more games to come.
Got it. Fellas, so if you had to guess what Coach Joseph is stressing to the team this week as the keys to victory, what would you say?
I would say keys to victory: do not self-harm yourself in this game. No flags. Try to limit that. That is one of our main things. Watch out for the run game, read options. I watch a lot of Jackson State, and they run a pro-style offense, spread. They shotgun most of the time, sometimes pistol. They also use a couple quarterbacks. Don't use the second guy too much, Corey. You guys don't utilize him too much, but there is 2 quarterbacks to be worried about on this Jackson State team. But Overall defense, I'll say defense, stay the same. Rushing, you have to make sure that I already know that is a main emphasis and a point, but they have played outstanding. Overall, they have played really well. And the main thing that you want from them is to play defense. But I think that a person that he's really keying on is Miles Crawley. Miles Crawley is probably the main guy. He's in his ear all week long because this game is going to his success is going to be what really helps Grambling State University out in this game. Our running backs can hold the load, but our power, our strength is in passing. And if we can't get that going against Jackson State, we're going to have a long game. So I think that he's staying in his ear about making sure that Miles Crawley is staying on board and that this rushing doesn't get out of hand, that we don't allow 200 yards in the first half once again.
You're muted.
You're muted, Nate. You're muted.
With Grambling offense, with Miles Crawley, I think obviously we know about him in the passing attack. I think it's going to be established in the run game. If we can establish the run game, then that maybe just open up a little bit because everybody's always on Miles Crawley to always make a play for this team, and defenses are always studying for him. So if we can establish that run game, get the ball moving, get the chains moving early, I think Miles doesn't have a hard time of always being pressured all the time. So run game on the offense. When it comes to defense, to just getting the hat to a ball, doing what they always do. If I'm not mistaken, so far the defense has probably spent a little bit more time of possession out on the field than our offense has this season so far. So defense just putting the hat to the ball, giving our offense a chance to go out there and make a play, and just putting it all together. And then the third point would have to be putting two halves together. We've shown that we can spark and we can flash in the first half, but being able to finish, we showed this past week. Now we have to show it again.
All right, good stuff, fellas. Good stuff. Previous matchup, 66-24, Jackson State. Obviously, completely different coaching staffs and different teams. And I know there's a ton of new players on both sides, but on the Grambling side, I'm pretty sure they've heard about it. And I know the remaining players haven't forgotten about it. So I know they're out for revenge. 6 p.m. kickoff, ESPN Plus. As of right now, the weather's looking perfect at the time of this recording. So we expect to see a big crowd. We know Jackson State will definitely get on the road. So closing remarks, fellas. What can Jackson State fans expect over in Grambling, from the atmosphere to the tailgate to the game itself?
We're not the same team. Y'all beat 64 to 12, whatever the score was. We're not the same team at all. And also, I love with Jackson State fans. I love the fact that you guys come down. It's different from Southern because there's almost like a true dislike in there. I feel like we have a rival, but it's also kind of like family. You guys are the big brother that we compete with, but we still love. So I think that, come down. It's going to be a great time, great game, regardless of how this swings. Of course, us being Grambling State University guys, we're going to definitely want us to walk out this game 3-1, and you guys will as well. But I think that overall, this will be something that's great. I think that if you guys come down, it's almost going to have a homecoming feel. That's what we're really pretty much expecting. So main points of emphasis, it's not 2021. Dion, it was there, and Hugh Jack. It was a whole different world at that time for us. Not Hugh Jackson. Fobbs was the coach at the time. It was a whole different world. So I'll just say, don't expect the same ball game. Not saying that we're gonna blow you guys out. I'm not saying that. Don't expect the 64 points to be put up. Fedora Sanders is still there. He is. So I just say expect a different game, but expect the same atmosphere in a sense. Yes.
I'm expecting big things from this matchup, from the field on the play, the tailgating. Jackson fans, they're always going to be a little bit of rowdy. And Grambling, we're going to match that energy at all times. I expect this to be a game, kind of the Saints and Cowboys just played this past weekend. I expect it to kind of be like that. I expect the hills and the hole to be full, bleachers on both sides, the bands to be rowdy, of course. It's going to be a big one. This is the last game I actually went to for Jackson State. I was actually a high school student. It was high school day 2018. Jackson State came down, and we ended up winning that game. But the one thing that always left a bad taste in my mouth was Jackson State band actually dissing and playing our fight song right in front of us. That hits different. So I'm expecting the dub this weekend for the Grambling Tigers, should I say. I'm expecting that.
Well, there's some history with the bands as well. I don't know if you guys know, but
Oh man, fifth quarter is going to be the zero quarter as well. I mean, the whole game.
Right.
Yeah, I've been there. I've been here with Grambling since 2018, so I know the differences. The Jackson State gives us the best fight when it comes to bands. I don't think any other band you could throw some names out there, but Jackson State is the closest that I've ever witnessed could come into us. It might have been times that y'all even beat us, but I won't admit it.
Well, it dates back to the 80s because a lot of people don't know this, but it's on record. Even here on Tiger Talk, from our side, our band members and former band members admitted it that our song, I won't say our song, what we play, we're known for JSU Rock the House. The Sonic Boom took that from Grambling. It was back in the 80s, right? That's where they got it. So it's on record. So they kind of started some stuff. So we admitted it. We said we stole it from Grambling.
Do you know some history about the 1988 Grambling game?
Talk to me about it.
So let me tell you what happened at Grambling 1988 while we were sitting there. Do you remember Grambling playing Rock the House?
I remember that.
And that's when we took it.
Oh, wait a minute. So, Toby, you are part of history, sir. You were at the game where the Rock the House got.
We took it. Dal Taylor said, Vaughn, come here. He said, you see that? The whole crowd. He said, we got to do that. So we had pep rallies every Friday. Mm-hmm. So he had the cheerleaders to come in, play the song, introduce it to them, told them on the plaza on Friday, we're going to practice with the whole student body. And we're going to play that on Saturday. And it has not stopped yet.
Wait. You said practice it on the plaza.
Correct. With the student body. So you all had the student body participate. You're like, y'all do this. That's right.
Wow.
We showed them, we played the music, and Dal Taylor had the little speaker. And we introduced it with the cheerleaders. Once the cheerleaders did it, we went on the plaza because we have a pep rally every Friday. So at the pep rally, we told the student body about the song. And we told them what the reaction was and what you're supposed to do. And don't rock the house, and the crowd got into it. So when we played it on Saturday, it was over.
They knew what to do.
It's over. 1988, that Grambling State game is when we took it. We took it.
Hey, it takes the bigger man to admit that, so I appreciate that.
All right, good stuff. Well, again, we're looking forward to it. We'll be hitting the road, looking for it. Again, a great game, great atmosphere, and we appreciate you guys for doing this. Keep up the great work. I definitely want to commend you too. Nathan, first of all, as a student, right? You're still a student at Grambling?
Yes, sir.
So that's amazing what you're doing. So keep it up, getting an early start. Obviously, OJ, you've been in the game. So I know you've taken Nathan under your wing, kind of showing him the rope. So continue doing what you're doing. We need more guys just like you at every HBCU. So again, kudos and keep up the great work.
Appreciate you so much, Corey. Thank you for having us on too.
Oh, my pleasure. All right, we'll see you Saturday.
All right, Saturday. All right, thank you guys.
Tiger Talk TV is presented by Bet Online.